Welcome to the Catbird Quilts. I'm Kathy Martin, and I have a lot to say about why I love quilting with men's dress shirts. Do you remember show and tell when you were in kindergarten and elementary school, and the teacher would say, Friday is show and tell, bring your favorite toy and tell us why you love it. I can remember that like it was yesterday. Show and tell was my favorite. I would get so excited at the prospect of bringing something that was mine and sharing it and talking about it with my friends and classmates. So today's video is going to be a little like that. I use men's dress shirts for fabric for quilting, and I get them almost exclusively from the thrift store. And it's so much fun to me, and I love it, and I think that you might love it too. So I'm going to show and tell you about it today. And I guess the starting place was, how did I end up doing that? So I started by, I've been a thrift store shopper for a long time now. I'm that obnoxious thrift store shopper that when I come to work and somebody gives me a compliment like cute pants, I say, thanks, $2.99 from the thrift store. So that's the way I feel about the thrift store before the men's shirt thing ever started. And one day I was looking in the men's dress shirt section for some reason, who knows, on a whim. And I found a shirt and I just loved the texture of it, just the feel of it. And so I bought it and I made a bathing suit cover up out of it. And then I bought a new shirt and I made a dress out of that. And then I found another shirt and I used it in the lining of a camera bag that I made for my husband. And by then I was fairly well convinced. I was just hooked on men's dress shirts. And I think initially the reason was the quality of the shirt fabric is just so good. So it's very fine pinpoint dress shirts or Oxford cloth shirts, linen. Let me show you an example. So I have a couple of examples to show you. This first shirt is a very, very fine point men's dress shirt. It's just white. It is so tightly woven that probably you can't even see on the video how tight the weave is. And I wish there was a feel option on video. You just reach through and touch for yourself. But if you listen, so it's that really, really tightly woven, very fine. This is what most men's dress shirts are made out of. Just this really beautifully tightly woven, and that's part of why it has that nice pristine white look. It's this one is 100% cotton. Sometimes they're not, but this one is, and that's part of what makes it such good quality and why it's so lovely to sew with, because it's cotton, it's very tightly woven. Let me give you another example. This next one is much softer. You may be able to see on the detail, it has a herringbone pattern on it, and it has a little bit more stretch, but it is so soft. It's just a really, really high quality shirt. And then the last example I have is actually, it's orange linen. This orange linen shirt is so soft. In fact, I don't think I noticed the color first. I think I noticed the touch first. My husband teases me and says I shop by feel. So I'll be walking through a store, not even aware of it. I have a hand out and I'll just be like touching shirts, everything as I go. And I'll like stop and go, ooh, what is that? So I think that's how this orange linen came to be in my stash. So that brings me actually to tip number 1, which is feel as you shop. When you're looking for fabric, if it is soft or textured or just has that, ooh, like the fabric that's like a pillowcase, it's just cool and smooth, that's a good sign. If it feels good on the rack, it's going to feel good on your quilt. This is the journey that I took as I started buying men's dress shirts. I bought by feel. And then I started noticing how many different prints there were and the selection of them, just so many. What I brought for you today, kindergarten little girl, is a bright pink gingham, a navy polka dot. I bought a shirt that was just like this. I used every square inch on a quilt, on a baby quilt. And then I happened to stumble onto another one at a completely different thrift store, and I bought it again because I loved it so much. And then I also have a Oxford cloth that is just a pale yellow stripe. So, and then underneath that is this really interesting blue floral and paisley. So paisley may not be your thing, gingham may not be your thing, but there is every kind of pattern you can imagine. And so the variety is just kind of amazing when you go to the thrift store. And you're not going to find these fabrics in the quilt store. You're just not. Like, I've never seen anything like this paisley shirt until I bought it at the thrift store. And so that brings me to tip number 2, which is look for prints and patterns that you love. You don't have to like paisley, you don't have to like polka dots, but I guarantee you'll stumble on a print and go, oh, I love this. And that is what sparks joy. That's that Marie Kondo. Whatever sparks joy, get it, and use it as fabric. So after I had been sewing with men's dress shirts for a little while and had gotten some of those fun prints that I just showed you, I realized that what was missing were solids. And in a lot of quilts, more than you think, there are a lot of solid pieces. It really enhances the beauty of the prints when you have a solid with it. So, of course, because my go-to is the thrift store, I started looking for solid fabrics at the thrift store. And guess what? There are a million of them. And you may have like some really ugly army greens, but there also are these unbelievably vibrant shirts in the thrift store. I was floored. I wasn't expecting that. And then there are also just your fabrics that you're going to always use, like neutrals like gray and tan, or a lot of light blue. Obviously, that's like men's shirts, French blue, light blue, white, and surprisingly pink. Now, that may be a Southern thing, but you can get a lot of shirts that are muted colors and also vibrant colors that you're going to use in your quilting. So let me give you an example. So look at this shirt. This shirt is so purple. It gives me life, actually. It is so purple. I have never quilted with anything this bright. It's not that I don't have colorful quilts. I just don't think I've ever had a shirt this bright, but it's a perfect example of the sort of thing that you can find at the thrift store, because I found this at the thrift store. And so you think, gosh, why would I ever use that? Well, so there's something that I've discovered about quilters. There's a designer called Cafe Facet, and he designs fabric that are just these crazy vibrant colors, and they really make beautiful quilts. I'm a little bit nervous about it, but it's a thing. But anyway, he is really, really famous, and he makes these really crazy, vibrant, colorful fabrics. I happen to have one. It's this like bright purple button, but look at that. That is gorgeous. And so if that's your thing, this came from the thrift store. If this is not your thing, let me show you what else comes from the thrift store. This very subtle, and actually you can see where the pocket was on this shirt. This is an Oxford cloth, so it's got some white. It has a little texture in it. And if this is not the perfect pink for a baby quilt, I don't know what is. So that brings me to tip number 3, which is look for colors that make you smile. I think that you should love the fabrics that you use to quilt with, to make bags or bathing suit cover-ups or whatever you're going to make with it. I think you should love it, and I think they should make you smile. One of the real unsung heroes in the fabric world is what quilters call low volume or low value. And what that is a light white, off-white colored shirt, or lack of color, or all the colors, whatever, with a very faint or fine or just not predominant print on it. And that's like the bread and butter of a quilter. You use them in contrast with brights to tone them back. It gives it that visual grounding that you need, and so they're used just widely. That you can find whole bolts and rows and shelves full of low volumes at a quilt fabric store. But in my opinion, men's dress shirts are like the OG low volume. But they're subtle by nature, and so a lot of times they're the last thing that you notice when you're looking at a whole row full of shirts at the thrift store. And so you just kind of pass right by it. And that's actually kind of what they do in quilting too. It just enhances the beauty of the prints and colors and the pattern of the quilt itself. So I have examples, of course, because it's show and tell. And so let me get those out and I'm going to show them to you. So I have 3 fabrics. All of these were shirts. I have actually broken them down. They are ready for use. And I would call these low volumes. The first one is a white with just a very faint gray, very small pattern. And if you were looking at this on the rack, you might not even notice it. You certainly might not linger on it. This particular one is the softest, finest cotton shirt you have ever felt in your life. And actually, that's probably why I felt it. And then was like, oh, that would be great to go with the dark green in my daughter's graduation quilt. So that one is just really, to me, the perfect example of a good low volume. This next one is a pattern. Well, that's a pattern too, but it's like a geometric pattern. And true story, this was my husband's shirt that I donated to the thrift store. And then 6 months to a year later, or maybe a month, I don't know, time is relative, I was at the thrift store and I was like, oh, look at that pretty pattern. That would make a lovely low volume. And I literally bought the shirt back that I had donated to the thrift store. So I liked it the first time and bought it for my husband, and then donated it, and then liked it again and bought it again. So this one would be, for example, a really nice low volume in a baby quilt for a boy, or if you just have a lot of blues and need something to kind of temper it back. And then the next one, which is actually my favorite, even though it's kind of random, it is a floral. And you'd be surprised at how many floral shirts are in the men's dress shirt section, and not because somebody put it in the wrong place. There are actually a lot of floral men's shirts. This one is kind of a golden sprig, and it is, I don't know what it is about it. I love it. And I have a couple of fabrics that I've already paired it with. I may give you a shot of that. It's so pretty. So that brings me to tip number 4, which is don't write off white or off-white shirts with a subtle print. Those can be some of the most beauty-enhancing fabrics in your quilt. You just wouldn't believe it. And there are a ton of them. So keep that in mind when you're shopping at the thrift store. So you can see why I love quilting with men's dress shirts from the thrift store. I mean, just a little bit that I've just shown you. The patterns, the prints, the colors, the fabric, linen, all of those things, they just really make it such a joy to use that fabric and quilt with it. And part of that is because I went to my thrift store, I found the shirt, I recognized the potential in it, bought it, brought it home, broke it down, made it ready to use in quilting. It's like a treasure hunt. It's the effort. It's not going to the jewelry store and picking out earrings. It's digging up the treasure for myself, putting a little time and sweat equity in it, and then I'm invested. It's unique and special. And that quilt, as a result, there will never be one like it. Even if you use a pattern that 150,000 people have used that pattern, your quilt will be unique. There's no other fabric like that in the world, and that makes the quilt special, and it could potentially be kept for a lifetime. So that to me is so rewarding, so enriching, and that's why I love quilting with men's dress shirts from the thrift store. This is the Catbird Quilts. I'm Kathy Martin. Thanks for watching.